Hey everyone, my name is Brian Gannon. I am an EcoSys configuration engineer with FTI Consulting, and this is a ad hoc show and tell mini config mini story um, type of deal. I'm just going to go through how to make what I'm calling an accordion, something I configured during a client engagement last month, and I've just recreated here in my sandbox instance. And what I mean by accordion is simply for on a spreadsheet or probably in practice, a chart is where I'm thinking this could be most useful. But for demo purposes, we're doing a spreadsheet here. But the accordion aspect is at runtime, the end user is able to control how basically the granularity of the data display. So here we're looking at a 3-year total time horizon, yet I can control do I want to see the figures by quarter or by month or or just by year, and and I'm able to do that at runtime. So how does this work? So what is going on here? So in a nutshell, this is a um, a column generator range that the granularity is monthly. So maybe this can be done via a custom time period or what have you, but I'm just doing it kind of the old-fashioned way, kind of pre-custom time periods. Um, so monthly column generated range, where the period group and duration attributes of that range are supplied by parameters, which are um, populated by default value reports, which are in turn informed by the parameter selections that the end user makes. So I'm going to close this and just unhide some of those behind the scenes parameters. So let's unhide that and unhide that and unhide that and save it here, and just so you see what that looks like. So really, this is what's going on. And when I change this to say quarterly, these recalculate, and then we get this. So let's just walk through these parameters. So first we got start year, and then in addition to the accordion piece, in this case, the end user is also able to select at runtime what year the report begins with and how many years total are we looking at. And I just keep those in the terms of years in the interest of keeping it as simple as possible for the end user. So starting off, we've got start year here, which is just a major period parameter. Great. And then we have, and by the way, this is 9.3.01 version of EcoSys, and standard product 4.22. So just out of the box with that, with the data from the demo project that's within standard product, and I've just copied it forward to current years for demo purposes, and that's why the data looks the same for each year, because it's just the data that is out of the box with standard product, just copied forward a few years. So we've got our start year. Start minor period is the first hidden parameter, and all that is it's basically just the beginning minor period of the major period that the end user selected. And the way we get that is just by a default value report, which is this. And the start minor period is so this is in the major period subject area, and we're getting that minor period that we want via this formula, which is also in the major period subject area. And we're just taking the start date of the major period, which can be found here, and then putting that within the minor period ID from date library function, and that will return the internal ID of the minor period we want, and so just back on the spreadsheet, we're gonna point it to that report and give it the start year parameter, and be sure to set resolve values by internal ID so that it is interpreted properly. So that's that, and we're going to make this depend on start year, and so that's that. Then years out is the where the user specifies the time range in total, and that's just a manual number parameter. I did just because I was curious how the new parameter tooltips looked. I populated some a tooltip here, and it's really neat. Just so when you hover over, that's how it looks, which is pretty slick in my view. Of course, uh, it would be a bonus, I suppose, if it showed us that this does have a tooltip via like some sort of icon, kind of like how forms work. But here it's like not so. I don't know. It's just it doesn't seem as big of a issue that that's not there, because it kind of it's pretty easy just to hover over it and it just pops up. But in any event, that's what that looks like, and it's pretty neat. So we've got years out. We're just gonna collect that number, and that doesn't depend on anything. And then we have granularity. So this is where the end user is saying, well, do they want annual, quarterly, or monthly? And this is modeled as a category type. It doesn't matter in this case what subject area this category type is in. I put it in when I did this last month on the client side. I had this as a cost object category type. Here, I've just made it as a transaction category type. Again, it doesn't matter. What we're using this for is really to get the number we are going to put into into one of the ingredients of the range, which is period group. That's what we're after here. So if we pop back to this, so we see here we've got what the end user is going to see, but the key part are these numbers. So I just am using the external key field of these category values, and what these are is how many months are in one of these. So for monthly, 1, for quarterly, 3, for annual, 12. And what is going to happen is that they choose that, and this hidden parameter, which is another number manual parameter, is simply going to get what that chosen category value's external key is by way of this default value report. And this is just it's in the transaction category subject area and looking at that category, and it's just going to return the external key of the chosen category value. So it's row filtering on that, on whatever they chose, and just returning the external key. And so that is that. So that is for all of this is in the aim of creating what we need for the range, is getting the ingredients we need for the range. There's 3 ingredients: the start minor period, so we've got that, the period group value, which we just got, and then lastly, duration. So we pop down here to duration, and this is via this default value report, which have up here, and we're getting this value by what, so this is another report in the transaction category subject area. Really, this one and the previous one could really probably be the same default value report. I have them split up here just for the purposes of getting the dependencies straight. And once you have something working the way you want in EcoSys or any tool, I think the best approach is just leave it. Perfect is the enemy of good, et cetera, et cetera. So this is looking at that duration, is looking at this default value report, and this default value report has this formula, which is this, and this is telling us basically how many columns, how many periods are we going to have on the report depending on what they chose upstream. So if you chose, I want to see 3 years total, which is this, we're going to take 3, multiply it by 12. And if you chose annually, this is going to be 12. And um, uh, 3 times whatever that comes out to be, it's going to end up being 3. The answer is 3. And so you're going to have a range where the it starts where it starts. There's 12 observations, which in this case is months because it's a minor period range. 12 observations per column, and how many of those columns do you want? 3. And that is it. So we'll come back. You know, that's really all there is to it. 2 maybe little kind of mini gotchas, but they're relatively easily worked around. The first one of those is dependency. So dependency here is important. And this is a scenario, and there was a post, I believe, on Ideas, and I commented on it, and I was trying to find it again earlier today, and I couldn't, but it's a scenario where I've got a parameter where it really depends on 2 things in equal measure, but there's not a way to represent that in the system. We have to point it to only one thing. And so how do we deal with that? And what I do is basically just make a daisy chain. And this is an attempt to illustrate that. But so basically this guy here, which I've renamed to duration in the system, this really depends on both this and this. But since we can't configure it that way, we set this to depend on granularity, and then granularity depends on years out. So, and that gets us to where we want to be with the minor, the downside, but it's at the end of the day 2 extra clicks for the end user. So notice here, well, if I change, like I did at the top of the video, if I just change the granularity, it's going to recalculate. Great. That's all I had to do. Well, if I change the time horizon, in order for everything to stay in sync, I need to, granularity is going to blank out. So I'll change this to 4, but now I have to reselect the granularity. In a perfect world, I could change the time horizon and nothing else would change and it would just work. In practice, I could do that here, but here I have to make it so that if I change either of these things, this has to get recalculated. And the way we do that is just set up that daisy chain dependency. And the only minor downside is that the end user, depending on if they change this one, they have to manually reselect this one. Not a huge deal. So that's that. And then finally, the captions, which when I first did this was ironically the trickiest part because the captions need to be, sensible given the selections that have been made. So what works is using the start minor period name and end minor period name or ID for your dynamic captions. But this is where there's also the second little mini gotcha, but it's pretty easily worked around. So notice I have 2 cost columns here, and I'm going to unhide this one just to demo the little mini gotcha I'm talking about and what the workaround is. So I will run this, and this is set to quarterly. Okay, everything looks good. Okay, this is the first series. This is the second series. Looks fine. If I change this to monthly, notice that now, for whatever reason, I don't know, there's some sort of mini, minor bug, what have you. The second dynamic caption doesn't render. it apparently gets confused because the start and the end are the same minor period in this case. The workaround, put it in a formula. And that's what I did last month. I didn't run into this when I first did this last month. And so but here I did, because when I first set it up, I didn't put it in a formula. I didn't need to. I needed to last month. So when it happened here, I kind of knew that, well, the workaround is probably to put it in a formula, and it is. So so that's why here we have, so this is it, just here in the spreadsheet. I've created a formula that has exactly this, but it's in a formula. And the way that we do the dynamic captions in this case is using the syntax that was introduced, I believe, somewhere in the 8.x versions of EcoSys, which is the ability to, which is awesome, to here, yeah, to cite, okay, the syntax is the name of the parameter, the formula's ID for said parameter, which in this case is start for the start minor period, and then dot, and then the actual reserved name for the thing we want, which is start minor period name in this case. And then we just do through end dot and minor period name, and that works. Whereas this is just like within the spreadsheet, and that's where we have that one issue when we set it to monthly. And just as an aside regarding captions, in the course of setting this up, I didn't know this little bit until I was setting up this demo, and that is, and it's really cool. The notice that I have major period ID here. Now, even though I'm not using major period at all here, this is a minor period range, etc., etc., it still knows that, hey, I'm going to hide that other series just to get some noise out of here. So let's turn that off. But notice that, hey, the major, it still renders the proper major period that these observations are, each one of these months or quarters are in. And that's really neat. I didn't know that. And it's the same deal with another dynamic caption that I didn't even know existed. And this is why it's great. It's really good to just always have a shortcut to the various like dynamic captions and uh, reserved word name parameters type things that can be found on Smart Cloud, Hexagon's Smart Cloud. But if we go here, and I can even put, no, not that one, this one. I can even put quarter, and then we'll do quarter here. And see what we get. So notice, yeah, I didn't know this either. Like there's a quarter dynamic caption, and the system knows, automatically, okay, this is January is in quarter one of 2024. February is in, and March, and February and March are in one. Then April, May, June are in two, etc., etc. So, that unlocks potential with using, like I've now put major period ID as the column set caption. I just didn't know that you can still use dynamic captions even though that thing is not explicitly being used in the column filter of that column or as a formula parameter for that column, like here. So, and then finally, this has nothing to do with Accordion at all. Just something, a delighter that I came across while setting this up, specific to 9.3, and that is, if you in 9.3, and I'm sure this was in, I did skim the release notes, and lots of awesome stuff, like lots of stuff, and perhaps that's why this what I'm showing didn't like consciously register, or maybe it just wasn't on there. I'm not sure, but I'm going to make a copy of this column here, and wow, it adds it right after the column that I made the copy of. And that before 9.3, the copy would just go to the bottom. And if your spreadsheet or chart or what have you or form is busy, like that can be a long list and it just takes up time. So that's awesome. But then the best part is, look at this. You make the copy and it appends the word copy onto the ID. So you no more of that, you save it like, oh, whoa, you need to make this ID is identical to this other ID. I think I speak for many of the EcoSys configurators out there when I say, if I had a nickel for every time I would be doing, I'd be pretty well off. So that's it. Just a simple, and then last but not least, in the range, you want to actually type the relevant parameter labels into the proper fields. This is where, I'm sure in an upcoming version that these fields, which we cannot make larger at the moment, will get the treatment that this part of the configuration UI has gotten, which is awesome. This can be dragged. Uh, this can be made longer. So that's fantastic, and it's especially helpful when you're dealing with dynamic captions, which can get kind of long. And so that's great. That is it. Please let me know if you have questions or comments, on how maybe some of y'all have done this before and you went about it a different way or slightly different way. Please just add a comment, and thanks for watching and have a great day.